This week we're covering Unit 3, the people in the organization. So there's two chapters, chapters 8 and 10. And since there's only two chapters, we're going to complete this unit in just 1 week. Remember, you took the accelerated course, so we're doing a semester in just 8 weeks. Okay? So that's why it seems like a lot. It's because we're doing it in a compressed schedule. So you can see our due dates. We have the Chapter 8 terms assignment due on Tuesday, the Chapter 10 terms assignment due on Friday, and then on Saturday, you're going to have the Business Plan Project Part 3. Our next exam will be covering Units 3 and 4. Okay, so that's why we don't have an exam this week. So if you click on the Chapter 8 tab, we can see that Chapter 8 is dealing with human relations. Okay, so we're looking at things like personality, the psychological contract that the employer and the employee have. We look at motivation and attitudes. And so we know that you need to have strong interpersonal skills to be successful in most careers, but especially business. And so we're looking at how a manager would deal with the different personalities and how they would motivate their employees. Okay, so we can see what we have to do for Chapter 8 is just the terms assignment and then the Business Plan Part 3. So you can see the outline, the PowerPoint, and here's our assignments. Due dates. We've got Tuesday, Chapter 8 terms assignment, Friday, Chapter 10, business plan due on Saturday. And then you can see some various resources down here. Okay. So the Chapter 8 terms is due on Tuesday. The Chapter 10 terms assignment is due on Friday. So Chapter 10 is the human resource management, the HR portion of the chapter, and labor relations is also covered in this chapter. So an HR manager has to plan staffing development, plan staffing, develop the employees, and then assist with the procedures for performance appraisal, as well as dealing with compensation and benefits. So we'll look at these HR functions. We'll look at compensation. We'll look at some of the laws. Being a HR manager means you need to make sure that your business is in compliance with laws. That's why it's really important to have effective HR in your company because, for one thing, you want to be attracting and retaining the top talent for your company, but also you want to make sure that you don't open yourself up to lawsuits because you're not following laws. So we do look at some legal issues and then other concepts such as workforce diversity, contingent workers, and then, as I said, the chapter ends with looking at labor unions. Okay, so again, we've got the terms assignment, we've got that business plan part 3. Here's where you can get the chapter 10 information. Here's our assignments. And then again, our due dates in another place. And then we have some more resources down here. So let's take a look at that business plan part 3 that's due on Saturday. Okay, so again, this business plan is worth 30% of your grade, so you want to do a good job. Okay, so here is the same note I had on the other parts. Totally understand that you might use AI to generate ideas, but you cannot copy and paste from AI. You can use the ideas, consider them, and kind of make them your own for your business. Okay. If you do use AI, please just attach it to the end of your submission so I can see that you got your ideas, but then, you thought about them and you use critical thinking to develop them for your company. You'll see there's some places where you're going to tie in your responses to the textbook theory, and you need to quote the textbook, okay? And then make sure you also explain how does that tie into what you're talking about. Don't just give a random quote, kind of tie it into what you're trying to convey. You have to show your page number because I need to be able to trace your quote. So the first thing you're going to do is talk about the corporate culture of your business. Okay. Corporate culture was discussed in chapter 5, so you do want to tie that back to the theory discussed in the textbook. So refer back to chapter 5 because you are asked to quote the textbook. And then also talk about the employee behaviors, the organizational citizenship. So that's a chapter 8 concept. Okay, and make sure you're tying this back into the textbook. I just want to show you, I did, when you're trying to decide how you want to describe your corporate culture, I did provide you, where we go. If you go to the chapter 8 tab, if you go down to the resources, go down to the resources. So here's an article about corporate culture. Okay. And so this article talks about 8 types of corporate culture. Get rid of this little, right? So you might want to read about this. Here are some various types of corporate culture that could kind of give you an idea of what you want to, establish for your company. Okay, this is just an idea. You can doesn't have to be one of these, but just kind of you want to toss that around and think about those. Then for jobs 2 and 3, you're going to do an internet search to see if you can find a job posting similar to the jobs in your business. So back in your business plan part 2, you provided an organizational chart. To get the highest rating, you need to take 4 of the jobs from your organizational chart and write a job description. So the job description is talked about in chapter 10, okay, and then the job specification. So I would recommend, you don't need to recreate the wheel, take a look at a similar job posting and kind of see what do you think you would like to pull from that for your job description. Don't just copy and paste it, because if you don't understand something in the job description, then you shouldn't write about it because it might not be applicable to your company. For example, I just did an internet search for a cashier. And so here they talk about the cashier. Here they show some job descriptions. And all right, so the job description talks about the job and the duties of the job, and then the job specification talks about the qualifications and the credentials required for the job. So that's going to be parts 2 and 3. So to get the highest rating, you need to do 4 jobs. You'll see 3 jobs, you get the second highest rating, 2 jobs, satisfactory, 1 job needs improvement. So you want to do 4 jobs for both, right? And you can get a little help for these. Then question 4 asks about training. And so you need to refer to chapter 10. Chapter 10 talks about training your employees. Okay, and you need a quote from the textbook. You'll see you're going to get very little points if you do not quote the textbook, so please don't skip that. You need to tie it into the textbook. Number 5 is asking about compensation. So for those 4 jobs you wrote about, you need to say what would the salary be. You can't just make it up off the top of your head. You need to have some basis for it. So you need to see what the market rate of interest would be for that salary. So I would again suggest an internet search to get the market salary. So here I did an internet search and I found the cashier salary in Illinois, right? So for the 4 jobs you wrote job descriptions and job specifications, you also need to research their salary. And then the last question is about incentives. This is also from chapter 10. What incentives, right? Because we talk about motivating our workforce. What incentives would we use? Use a quote from your textbook, and always with your quotes, tie it in. So don't just throw a quote at me. Why is that quote something that you're using to consider incentives for your business? Okay. So make sure you do a good job. Get this done. Have it due. It's due on Saturday. So here's where you get the instructions, but this is where you'll click to submit it. You can click here to upload your file, as well as if you want to see the rubric, click on that arrow, and then you can see the rubric, how you're going to be graded. You can see for the job description, job specification, compensation, you need to do 4 positions. Okay. All right. So we got to get through a whole unit this week. Okay. So another part of the business plan, we move fast in the 8-week class. If you have questions as you're working, please reach out to me.